Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in Louisiana, and every 13 hours someone dies by their own hand, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Nationwide, stories of veterans falling victim to mental health disorders are all too common. Tonight, Jillian shares the story of a local veteran struggling with PTSD who this year attempted to take his own life. This report might contain content some viewers find disturbing.
And so I looked in the mirror and I said, God, I'm going to count down. And so I said 3 and I put it on alpha safety on fire. I said 3, 2, 1, and I said, God, and I shot.
Matthew Richard attempted to end his life in March.
I had been contemplating suicide for a long time.
So what led him to this? He joined the Marine Corps in 2005. Following in the footsteps of his godfather.
And I told myself since I was about probably 6 or 7 years old that I was going to be a Marine because of him.
While serving in Ramadi, Iraq in 2007, tragedy struck.
I ended up accidentally shooting a best friend of mine over there when we got back from patrol. It was 3 months before we were supposed to leave.
Richard killed Lance Corporal Stephen Chavez.
I went to the brig for a year for negligent homicide.
Though called an accident, he received a bad conduct discharge, meaning his military benefits were stripped. Richard was no longer eligible for help from the VA, forcing him to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder on his own.
I was struggling mentally, spiritually, and physically after that for a long time dealing with it.
Richard was in a place he never thought he'd be.
I've had about 4 or 5 senior Marines who come back from war and shot themselves over getting a divorce, over other things, and I told myself I will never do that.
Turning to alcohol, he made decisions he will always regret and was tired of feeling lost.
I said, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to get that gun, and I'm going to do it, God. I'm telling you right now. I said, you have to give me some answers, or otherwise it's always going to be like this, and I'm going to end up hurting somebody else. He said, I got bone fragments on the front of my head and the bullets in the middle of my head right here in the middle.
Richard was searching for something when he pulled the trigger. Now he says surviving was the answer.
I look in the mirror and I see that, and I tell him, this hurts so bad. My head is like, there's this throbbing pain right here, but I'm like, thank you. Thank you for the pain, because it reminds me of what I should not do ever again.
The handsome young man will forever be reminded of the worst time in his life.
There's no way that God allowed me to live through this, if there is a God, which I know there is, that he would not want me to be helping other people when he saved me through that.
While Richard continues to seek treatment, he tells his story of tragedy, mistakes, giving up, and survival, hoping that no other veteran, no other person, will ever feel alone.
But I'm going to tell you this, ask for help, man. Ask for help.
At your service, Jillian, KPLC 7 News.
As Jillian reports, one woman found the spirit of the holidays in an unlikely place.
If you make an early morning stop at the Broad Street McDonald's,
Sir, thank you for choosing McDonald's.
You'll probably see Antoinette Thibodeau. She sits alone, studying her Bible. But this isn't just her favorite reading spot. It's her safe haven.
Well, if it's cold, I come in to warm up.
Thibodeau is homeless.
But normally, I just come in to see the smiles.
Falling on hard times, her life hasn't gone exactly the way she planned it. She isn't able to see her family very often, but ever since she walked into this McDonald's and met Darius McWhite, she has a new family.
He gave me a cup of free coffee, and ever since then, my coffee stays full.
You go with my friend.
With all the workers here, it stays full.
Bringing her that cup of coffee each morning turned into a meal, then a conversation.
Y'all have made my day.
When I first encountered her, it was just something about her. I mean, I couldn't pinpoint it, but I reminded myself that that was me years back, and what if that was still me today?
Because I can have a bad night, you know, I can not sleep or something and just have a bad night and wake up and come straight here and just find smiles.
Their smiles, their generosity, not just toward Thibodeau, but everyone who's walked in needing a little support.
I don't consider them homeless. It's individuals that going through that test of faith to see if they can overcome that trial and tribulation. And at the end of the day, that might be that same person that I fed that'll be able to feed me.
He even gave Thibodeau a journal, which she writes in every single day.
Darius will come to the table when he's on break and read my Bible with me.
He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And I just felt like the more I started doing for her and the more I started seeing her, you know, just coming to work, hoping that she was there, just to have a conversation.
He's reminded every day just how lucky we all are.
Some of them don't have parents to go to. Some of them don't have homes to go to. Some of them don't have meals that they can actually afford to be able to get a meal.
McWhite has been able to provide some of those meals. And Thibodeau calls him her angel. But he says that goes both ways.
Tell her, I'm not just your angel, but you're my angel as well.
An unlikely friendship, but an unbreakable one. At your service, Jillian Corder, KPLC 7 News.
Investigators are re-examining evidence in the 1987 homicide of 75-year-old Noah Breaux. Though the case went cold decades ago, detectives and family are confident the killer will be identified. Our Jillian Corder joins us live with the story.
For nearly 30 years, detectives and family have been asking who could kill an elderly man, then set his house on fire. Well, we spoke to those still looking for the answer to who killed Noah Breaux.
When I see this picture, I see a bouret game going on and Papa saying, "Don't slam the screen door!"
Tina Breaux Savoy always pictured her grandfather teaching her son how to fish.
You know, you see these things on TV, but they're never going to happen to you.
Life changed the morning of March 15th, 1987.
Papa's house is on fire, and they think that he might have been in it, and he may be, deceased.
Sue Breaux called to tell her daughter, 75-year-old Noah Breaux, died.
I was the other bedroom.
What she didn't know at the time, Breaux was dead before the fire started.
Had injuries that were not consistent with the house fire, thermal injuries, or with injuries that were consistent with smoke inhalation. Mr. Breaux, in actuality, died of injuries more consistent with blunt force trauma.
Cranial hemorrhaging
With multiple skull fractures.
Breaux was beaten to death.
Round type of object like a bat, a piece of wood, or stick.
The murder weapon never found.
The fire was an attempt to cover up the original homicide. The criminals are pretty good, but they're not quite as good as they think they are.
Some evidence was left behind. The same evidence Lake Charles police detectives are retesting decades later.
There are things in this case that we can't release to the public. The suspect in this case knows what we're talking about. We have some evidence that we're hopeful that will result in some type of arrest and possibly a conviction in this. It's just a matter of time before our investigators can sift through that information and make that determination.
Police say a statement from a witness led to the arrest of Breaux's granddaughter, Vera Lighthead, and her boyfriend, Harry Richard. But when the source changed her story, the charges were dropped.
It stopped the investigation because this person recanted it. It puts a lot of police effort in a direction that may or may not need to be if this person was lying, and we don't know that yet. Revisiting all of that, and that is everyone that talked to the police, everyone that made statements, true or false, and to allow our investigators and science determine what is fact.
While every shred of evidence is looked over again decades later, Breaux's family is left wondering.
The only thing that went through my head is who could possibly have done something so hideous. If they would come out and say who, what, when, or where, we'd forgive them.
And just like investigators, they know someone out there knows something.
People that also know about this that may not even been part of it, that know of it, they share this guilt. Nothing on this earth that whoever did this can do to repay what they did.
Investigators are confident that a conviction is not only possible, but with new testing, justice could be served soon. At your service live in Lake Charles, Jillian Corder, KPLC 7 News.